Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me on this morning talk. So we're picking back up with part 4 of the Is Earth a Soul Trap? And the reason we were doing these talks is because I had some people asking me about it on Exit the Matrix Facebook. And I hadn't done a talk on it for a while, but it's always on the back of my mind, folks. And like I've said, this subject to me it's kind of dark, and I hope that what we're talking about isn't right, okay? But more and more as we keep delving into this, it sure seems to ring true. It just, I don't know, it's tough, folks. And when I do these talks in the morning, I just want you guys to know, like, look, I'm just pulling from all of the vast information that I've researched over the years, and just try to connect the dots, right? And I go into the flow state in the mornings. I just let the universe kind of direct my talk. The things come into my mind, and we go with it. And unfortunately, sometimes we get a squirrel here or there, and we get sidetracked. But for the most part, we've been covering a lot already. We've covered the Gnostics, NDE accounts, the beginning of man, right? The hybridization of humankind, the fact that the Anunnaki even talked about in the Atrahasis cuneiform tablet how they had to put a spirit in the first Adam, the Adapa, to give him life, because they'd fashioned this, hybridized this human vessel or a human avatar body, but they knew that you needed source energy to animate it. And so, and we've gone down some other avenues and stuff, but that's kind of where we're at this point now. And now we're just going to start like kind of digging in deeper, right? So something I barely touched on that I wanted to just add a little more context to was I'd mentioned, I think it was the last video or the one before, how the Anunnaki, the Anuna, the Elohim, how they set up the first human settlements, the first city-states like Nippur and Uruk and so on and so forth, with a deity, with a chief deity as the centerpiece of each city-state, and the worship, all the worship of that city-state going to that deity. So you would have like one city-state ruled by Enlil, one by Inanna, also known as Ishtar, her Babylonian name. Marduk, the son of Enki. In fact, later on, under Babylon, the city-state of Babylon was, their chief god was Marduk, the son of Enki. And some people say that Marduk was Nimrod and stuff. Some say Gilgamesh was Nimrod in the Bible. It doesn't really matter, folks, because look, the Old Testament is an adaptation of these much older texts. And I can't, I'm sorry, this is a squirrel, folks, but it aggravates me a little bit. The fact that Christians actually believe that the Bible's like the oldest written book or something. They're so ignorant. They don't understand simple archaeology, okay, and evidence that the cuneiform is much older than any biblical writing, Aramaic, Greek, or Hebrew ever found, okay? And yet Christians, every day they attack me laughing. It's when I'm explaining simple archaeology, that even any rabbi will tell you that, yeah, the cuneiform's much older than the Hebrew. But yet Christians don't understand that much of the Bible was back written, okay? Sourcing older texts. I mean, it's not that hard to understand. I mean, that's what we do with with history books, folks, okay? Except the difference is that they changed things, okay? And added themselves into the story and made themselves the heroes in the story. But contrary to belief, folks, the Hebrew is not that old, okay? In fact, if you look at the Sumerian and Akkadian cuneiform, which can go back to 6000 BC, folks, the oldest known fragments of Paleo-Hebrew touch maybe 1000 BC. Possibly. Like the book of Job is the oldest known book out of the Bible, and it's, I believe, around 700 BC. So, anyways, look, folks. Hey, man, faith, I guess, trumps reality, okay? I mean, some of these people, they just believe in fairy tales, and they just don't want to believe the truth. I mean, it doesn't even hurt their Bible if they think about it. Just give credence to the fact that, look, the Bible is pulling from older source material. But they just can't accept that. It's just, the box they're in, it can't allow those rays of truth to come through. Okay, they're sitting in that black cube of Saturn. The Abrahamic faith is the black cube of Saturn, the worship of El, the Canaanite god creator, and his son, one of his sons, Yahweh, later on rose up and took the mantle of Judaism. Okay? That's why you have all these different names in the Old Testament, El Elyon and all that, right? The Most High. Well, technically the Most High goes all the way back to Sumer. That's Anu, the God of heaven. Okay? The Most High, the highest ranking Anunnaki, Anu. And he had a consort, his wife, Ki. That's where you get the name Anunnaki. It's from heaven to earth. Ki represented Earth, just like Gaia, right? And all these, typically Earth is seen as a mother, as the womb, right? And the Father is always seen as a being from heaven. And of course, a lot of this is sun worship. The rays of the sun penetrate the earth. They wake up the life in the seed that's planted in the earth, and that brings forth life, plants and such. But that's where Anunnaki comes from. From heaven to earth they came, okay? For people that say Zachariah Sitchin made that up, nope, you can go read cuneiform tablets that have been translated for 100 years, and you'll find Anunnaki, and sometimes the older name Anuna, okay? That goes back to Akkad and Sumer. Later on, it was Babylon and Assyria that called him the Anunnaki. So anyways, let's just set that aside. Look, you can't teach stupid. I get it. It just, whatever. Live in your fairy tales. But us adults here, we're trying to move on with the story. And we're trying to actually learn a thing or two. So the biggest thing, though, I was trying to make about the city-state thing was that the Anunnaki understood, folks, okay? They understood source energy. They understood advanced things. They understood the quantum field. And they understood that humans had sparks of source within them. That's how they animated human bodies. That's the consciousness, the conscious energy that animates living life on Earth, is that source energy. And so what they were doing was they realized by getting humans to pray to them, not only were they building a structure of subservience and keeping these humans in line. Religion's the greatest fear matrix you can ever put on a human, right? Be good or your soul's going to be blotted out, right? Or you're going to burn in hell for eternity. That's always been one of the strongest manipulations against humans ever by power structures. And the Anunnaki understood this. That's why they built city-states with themselves set up as the chief gods of each city-state. In the middle, the temple would be in the middle of the town, and the town would be built in a circular pattern around the temple. And typically it was in sacred geometry patterns. Why is that? Because they were building a grid. They were building a funnel to funnel prayer energy up to the God that sat in the middle of this structure. And they were able to absorb that energy and to feed off of it and to empower themselves. And the more worshipers they got, the more powerful they got. And that's why the Anunnaki were at war with each other over humans. See, they'd moved beyond this point about just humans being their slave worker class. Now they understood they could become food, energy food for them. And the Anunnaki had been falling for the same trap that we find ourselves on in the earth plane, this lower dimensional existence of duality and polarity, where they started realizing that this system, this polarity, this duality, this world, it's hard on a being from a higher dimension to live here, because you start getting pulled into the dark side, the duality of this realm. And it starts to sap your source energy. See, the Anunnaki were falling prey to what we fall prey here on Earth. The battle between the animalistic third-dimensional self, because even the Anunnaki were in avatars, they're just more advanced avatars, and the battle between the higher self, the spirit, the conscious energy from the higher dimensions. And they were falling prey to this same thing. So I think what they figured out was, hey, we absorb the prayers, this energy off of these, this working class humanoids that we created, these humans. We can feed off of that and energize ourselves, recharge our batteries, so to speak. And essentially, folks, I believe that that's what all this is the start of this whole Matrix thing. And from then on, the Anunnaki, as they pulled back from directly ruling on the earth, and they started having children with the humans, and that's where you started getting these, Christians and stuff would call the Nephilim, right? These human hybrid, angel human hybrid beings, which it's so funny. Christians say the Anunnaki are the Nephilim. No, they're not. The Watchers and the Anunnaki, the Watchers are the Anunnaki. They are not the Nephilim, okay? The Nephilim are the children, the human children, hybrid children, through actual intercourse with these Watchers, these Anunnaki. Okay? And even the cuneiform talk about the Anunnaki having children with humans. Okay, folks? This caused great problems. Enlil and Enki both had children. In fact, guess who one of these children was, according to the cuneiform of Enki? Ziusudra. Ziusudra, Noah, in the Bible, was one of the children. Why do you think in the Atrahasis, why do you think Enki went and warned Ziusudra through the reed hut wall? Why do you think he wanted to save him from the flood? Well, because that was one of his children, his human children, okay? That's why. And I know none of you want to hear this kind of information, but if you even go back and read the book of Enoch, it even alludes to this. It talks about when Noah was born, how it scared his father because he would look like one of the shining ones. Who were the shining ones? The Anunnaki were the shining ones, folks. And in fact, if you go back and look at the Hebrew wording in Genesis, you'll find out that the serpent was called a Nakash. And if you look up the root meanings of Nakash, one of the meanings is the shining one. Okay? Folks, come on, man. It's time to wake up. Let's wake up. Wake up from the dream. You've been tricked. Your whole existence is a lie. You're an immortal spirit that's been tricked into a trap. And you're farmed for your consciousness, for your creativity, for your manifestation abilities. And you're manipulated. And you're tricked and you're lied to all the time. See, Noah's father was afraid of him because he shined. He had bright eyes. His skin was bright. He was not like Methuselah. Okay? He was not like his father. He did not look like him. Well, why was that? Well, that's because mommy was running around diddling on an Enki. Okay? And Noah was one of these, what you guys would call Nephilim. Now, I know that that's super blasphemous to say. But look, folks, like I said, just look at the evidence. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm connecting the wrong dots here. But isn't it interesting that the book of Enoch made a point to point this out? And of course, Enoch was the father of Methuselah. It would have been Noah's grandfather, okay? So why is that in the book of Enoch? Well, I think that's because the people that wrote the book of Enoch were reading these ancient tablets and they understood the connection between Noah and Enki, the shining one, the Nakash, the serpent, okay? Now, that doesn't mean Noah was a reptilian, folks, or a serpent per se. It's that he was of the serpent family. The Enkiites were the serpent. The eagle, the bird of prey family, was the family of Enlil, the god of the air. Okay? The god of war. Why do you think all these nations of war always have an eagle or a griffin or a phoenix or some bird of prey, a falcon, as their standard? And it's typically the Western nations. Well, that's the symbol of the clan of the Enlilites, okay? There's always been a battle between the two great families on the earth over control over humanity. It's been between the serpent and the eagle, or the bird of prey. You'll find it throughout history, folks, okay? Look at the two great powers right now, China and the United States. China's standard is the feathered serpent, the dragon. America's is the eagle. I mean, come on, folks. Look, I'm sorry, folks. I'm getting honest. You guys need to know this stuff, okay? Though, for some of you that have never listened to my other talks, you guys need to learn this history. In the Americas, before the Westerners, before the Europeans showed up and started colonizing and conquering, all of the Americas, for the most part, except for the Northern American Indians, they were aligned with Enlil, with the eagle and such. But most of from Mexico down south, all the way down to Argentina, most of your tribes were aligned with the serpent family, the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, Kulkan, Viracocha. Okay? Because when the battles had taken place over control of Mesopotamia and over northern Africa, Egypt and such, the serpent family got defeated and they moved their operations to the Americas, where they helped build up the Mayans and the Aztecs, the Inca. Well, the pre-Incans actually. Look, the Toltecs, the older, much older than the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incans. They came later. And they all worship the feathered serpent. Well, why is that? Well, that's because Enki and his family showed up and started teaching them how to build civilizations and megalithic structures and stuff through the Americas. And they started mining gold. Remember, what did the Mayans and Aztecs, what did they say when the Spanish arrived? With all this gold they had, they said they were collecting the gold for the gods to come collect. And they thought the Europeans were the gods when they showed up. They thought it was the return of Enki, of Quetzalcoatl. Now, some people say that's Thoth. Well, folks, Thoth is part of the serpent family. Thoth's Sumerian name is Ningizida. Ningizida is often depicted, he is the depiction of the double helix caduceus symbol that you find in Egypt and such, with the iron rod representing the human spine, and the wings at the top representing the spirit, and of course the ball at the top representing the mind. And then of course the two serpents wrapped around the rod representing the double helix DNA. Okay? The symbol's used to this day, folks. Hermes' staff, the caduceus, Thoth's staff. Okay? Well, it's actually Ningazita's staff. If you look at, there's this ancient vase, I think it's at the Oxford Museum, and it's got a serpent with a crown on its head holding the caduceus symbol. That's Ningazita, folks, Thoth, the son of Enki, okay? So Quetzalcoatl may be Enki, or it may be actually Thoth or Ningazita, but it doesn't matter. It's the serpent family that was ruling in the Americas. And then when the Spanish and the Portuguese invaded the Americas and they conquered the Americas, they started running up the flag, the standard of an eagle clutching the serpent in its claws, because it had defeated, Enlil's clan invaded and defeated the serpent clan in the Americas. Look at the Mexican flag, folks. That is the symbolism behind that flag. The eagle's clutching the serpent in its claws. Well, yeah, because Enlil's clan defeated Enki's clan in the Americas and subjugated it. It's holding the serpent in its claws. Look, folks, this is a lot bigger thing than any of you realize, okay? And I know, man, I just got totally sidetracked away from the soul trap. But look, you guys got to know all this stuff. This is all part of the bigger picture, okay? Look, they feed off our energy. They use human as cattle. They manage us through their human bloodlines that still rule to this day, that came through, like Gilgamesh and all these beings that were there. Those were their first hybrid children were massive. Their first ones, they were bigger than normal humans. That's where you get the giants and stuff. But through the years, through interbreeding with humanity, their blood got diluted more and more and more, and they got smaller and smaller, and all of a sudden they started looking more like humans. The last of them that were about the size of humans, but they still look different, were the ones with the elongated skulls, folks. Yes, the elongated skulls that you find in where? Peru, in Bolivia, and you find in Egypt with the pharaohs. Well, why is that? Because what were the pharaohs? Well, if you know anything about Egyptology, you'll understand that the pharaohs claim that they were the children of the gods. Human children of the gods. Okay, folks? They had elongated skulls. Look at Akhenaten and some of these other Nefertiti and stuff. You look at them, they look odd. They got these weird, long, elongated skulls. Well, you find the same skulls in Peru, where the Enkiite family ruled. So, sorry, folks. I'm just trying to get my car set up here just right. So, look, this is all stuff that, yes, it sounds like I'm going off a tangent here, but you guys got to understand, all of this stuff connects, okay? It all connects. I know it sounds crazy for those of you that have never heard this stuff, but you just don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, you guys haven't done this research. Is Pastor Dan at your church teaching you about this stuff? Absolutely not. In fact, he's not going to tell you this stuff, because this is information you're not supposed to know. A lot of this stuff, folks, is handed down through the mystery school teachings, okay? A lot of these secrets you'll find in the Hermetic teachings and such. Well, who was Hermes? Well, that was Ningazita, Thoth, okay? Through different reincarnations or different archetypes of him. I tell you, folks, oh my gosh. Wow. And then another reference for you guys to read into, and yes, I know there's the big argument over, was Doriel the one that wrote the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? Were they really passed down? Were they adaptations off older Hermetic writings? it doesn't matter, folks. Look, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, if you read them, you understand it's ancient passed down knowledge, okay? Were those the original tablets that Thoth wrote? Probably not. It's quite obvious that they were passed down through the Middle Ages, and Doriel, when he got a hold of some of this information, and he got some of it from Egypt too, he was able to rewrite all this in a way that people could, to reintroduce it back to the world. So I know there's always this argument: is the Emerald Tablets real or not? Are they fake or real? Folks, it doesn't matter. The information in them is real. Go read the Emerald Tablets. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth is literally talking about the fact that we are not human beings, that we are incarnated souls. And he talks about the soul trap. He talks about how when you're outside of the body, you got to watch out, though, because there's different places in the universe where they try to trap souls, even outside of the earth construct. He says to watch out for angles, to move in circles, not in angles. Isn't that interesting, folks? Angles. What's he mean? Angles, angels, angles, angels. Is it possible that Thoth was trying to warn us that the angels are part of the matrix? That they maybe are the jailers, that they act like they're the good guys. They act like they're, that they're there to benefit humankind. But really what they're doing is they're just moving souls in the direction they want them to go in when they leave the body. Isn't that interesting, folks? Damn, I got to touch up on my Emerald Tablets of Thoth. See, folks, that's what I mean. When I go in the flow state, it just, the stuff, when it comes to me, it comes to me. I forgot all about that. I wasn't even ever thinking about even bringing up the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. But if you read them, you'll know what I'm talking about, folks. Thoth talks literally about this being a type of soul trap here on Earth. And the fact that, he's always saying in there, don't you know, ye humans, you're, that you're not human, that you're, that you're a spirit, you're immortal spirit, and he talks about how we've all been tricked. And he tries to explain what you do when you leave the body. Wow. I'm going to have to touch up on Emerald Tablets today. And so I can maybe bring some more context to that tomorrow on the next talk. But I'm sorry, folks. Look, for those of you who got upset, we didn't go a lot into just the soul trap exactly. But look, we're building the backdrop, folks. All of this matters. It's a massive picture, okay? You can't do this in, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there. This could take a while to go through all this. And now the universe just threw the Emerald Tablets of Thoth in my mind. And now I just handed that to you guys to do some research on your own. Go read it, listen to it, whatever you got to do. And you'll find that he talks about this, what we're talking about. Interesting, right? So, or whoever wrote the Emerald Tablets. It doesn't matter. It's ancient knowledge, obviously. And Emerald Tablets explains the quantum field and all kinds of things. And this is, you guys got to understand, this was, what was it, early 1900s, the Emerald Tablets were released by Doriel. I think it was like maybe 1930s. I can't remember exactly, folks. There's a lot of mystery around who this guy was. And like I said, if he just passed the knowledge down, or if he actually wrote it himself, or if it's an adaptation, or it doesn't matter. Even if this guy wrote all this stuff, he had connection. He was pulling from ancient sources. Okay. When he wrote it, or he was channeling, I don't know, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. It's just the information's legit, okay? It checks out with other ancient teachings and with Hermeticism and such in the quantum field, so and metaphysics, okay? So, anyways, guys, hey, I gotta go. Work's been brutal. It's just so burned out, but I'm trying to keep everything going, I mean, I guess the good thing is I'm getting a lot of overtime and stuff. A lot of people right now are struggling. A lot of people losing jobs, and things are looking rough. If they don't get the government back funded, a lot of people, it doesn't matter what you feel about these people. Okay. I've never gotten SNAP benefits, but there are a lot of children that depend on this, regardless of what you think about their parents, if they're lazy or not, if they deserve it or not. It's still going to affect a lot of Americans, folks. And I would say the greatest thing we can all do is grab food and go take it to some food banks, or to donate some money to food banks, to try to help this situation. But I don't know. There's just things are going to get worse. I don't think people realize if this funding, SNAP a lot of that money goes to Walmarts and grocery stores and stuff. They'll start firing people right before Christmas, folks, if they don't get this thing funded, if the Democrats don't keep holding everybody blackmailed, trying to cause riots and all this stuff. It's such a clown show. I mean, I just can't stand either party. They're just both despicable scumbag criminals, psychopaths. Anyways, sorry about that little tangent. But anyways, guys, hey, I hope you guys are enjoying these talks. So, and I know for some of you that have never heard any of this stuff, you have no freaking clue probably what I'm talking about. But go read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Go read. You can listen to them. You can find it on YouTube. People have done whole videos where it's a read along and a listen along, okay? Audiobook. Go listen to it, man. Go learn something. Don't be afraid, Pastor. You don't have to tell Pastor Dan you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, because Pastor Dan might piss his pants. Okay? Just go do it. Go do your own research. Go read the Atrahasis. Go read the Epic of Gilgamesh. Go read the Enuma Elish. Go do what they tell you not to do. Go read the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Go read things they tell you not to read. Okay? The Egyptian Book of the Dead. Go read it. Why? Well, the Egyptian Book of the Dead is about the reincarnation of the spirit. It's about the ascension of the spirit. There's a lot of stuff that tied into that. And I'm not really as versed in the Egyptian as I am in the Sumerian and stuff. But I'm telling you, it's all same information. It's all there. And in fact, a lot of the Book of the Dead information is in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Okay? So, it's not evil. Because it's called the Book of the Dead, folks. It doesn't mean it's evil, okay? Christians are like, oh, that must be some like satanic necromicon, or what the hell is that book called from the Evil Dead? the Lovecraft stuff, the necromicon or whatever. That's what they think when they hear Book of the Dead. They think it's like some evil, like satanic, like, some necromancer book or something, right? I tell you, man, these people are just so ignorant. They don't even understand that the Essenes, which Yeshua was one of, that they would make pilgrimages to Egypt to learn the mystery school teachings, which the Book of the Dead was part of that. Okay, I mean, my God, why do you think they hid the Nag Hammadi scriptures in Nag Hammadi, Egypt? So, anyways, guys, hey, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.